So Ken's question here in class is, the gap play, is it in the opposite direction or is it in the direction of the trend? You can play either one. But what I'll tell you is that in my observation, when a stock has a trend, okay, that would be a trend. Let's do it with a candlestick. Stock is trending higher, all right? And then it pulls back for a couple of days. Okay, so it ran up to the 50 and stopped. So when you have a stock that is in a trend, right, so what do we expect? The stock will move up for 3 to 5 days, and then it'll move back for 1 to 3 days. So when you see this kind of behavior here, you got, you know, a nice breakout. And what direction are we trending? Right, we put in higher highs, we put in higher lows, the stock is trending up. If the next morning this stock gaps against the trend, if it goes here, that next morning, this is the thing that people are all afraid of, and that's why they day trade. Oh, you know, if I stayed in that stock overnight, it went against me, right? It's gapped against you, has it not? It was trending up, it gapped down. This stock has a high probability of filling the gap. I love when stocks gap against their trend. All this does is reset the auction. That 63 split window Corvette coupe that was on the auction block for $120,000, now all of a sudden, oh, that guy doesn't want it for 120. Well, we're back to 110. I wanted it at 110. So what do? You raise your hand. Buyers come in. The buyers who did not buy here when they should have, because they said, oh, I need confirmation, and then they didn't buy over here because they're like, well, now I've got too much confirmation, and they didn't buy on the retracement here where they really should have, or gotten in on this day when they had the perfect entry. They're like, crap, I missed it again. They weren't going to buy it up here yesterday because it's gone too high. This morning, because of news or something in the market or whatever the case is, the stock that had been trending higher goes back on sale at this price. What are people going to do? They're going to freaking buy it. Momentum is the most powerful force in the investing and trading universe. When you understand that, when you understand that a reversal is a process, it's not an event, when you understand that momentum is the key, then you look at this and you say, oh yeah, I'm going to buy a call option and I'm going to play at least the fill of the gap. Because this particular stock, this particular chart is very likely going to end up the day looking like this or like this. That fill of the gap when it gaps against the trend. Okay? Does that make sense? What if it gaps in favor of the trend? Okay? What if it gaps in the direction of the trend? Stock gaps up here. Okay? You could defend it. What direction is this one most likely to go? This one's almost 50-50, but it is actually slightly more likely to gap and go because it gapped in favor of the trend. It's a momentum move, right? Sometimes you'll see that it does pull back, but oftentimes what you find is it does not fill the whole gap. What you get is a little wick down here, and it looks like this, filled part of the gap, and then it took off. And how do I know that? I spent thousands of dollars learning that one. Okay? What I mean by that is I would play that gap. I'd be like, oh, it's a gap. Everything's a gap. A gap, a gap, a gap. Let's play gaps. I just played it. I mean, anything to gap. I had a scan. It was nothing but just freaking gaps. Didn't bother to look at the chart. I was just like, let's play the gap. Well, when I started going back and looking at the ones where I would either get stopped out or, you know, you'd start to fill this gap and you're like, ooh, this is awesome. stock would turn around and it'd rally the rest of the day. If you were good and smart, you got stopped out. If not, now you got the torture of a trade going completely against you. You bought put options on a bullish stock. That worked well, right? I mean, literally thousands. I don't even want to think of how many thousands of dollars I spent learning that lesson, that when a stock gaps in favor of the trend, it's more likely, if it fills any of the gap, to fill partially and then gap and go. But if it'll gap against a trend, that is a high probability setup. Those work. Okay? Still get stopped out on some of them, but you're more likely to fill that gap than not. Okay? All right.